Well, joining me now with more insight into this beef agreement and other China-US trade issues is Fred Teng. He's the president of the America-China Public Affairs Institute. He's also the senior US representative of the China-United States Exchange Foundation. Welcome to the show.
How do you do?
Now, what sort of opportunities does China lifting these beef exports open up for the whole industry?
Well, I think that when two countries, this is open up, breaking down trade barrier, it's not just of those products itself, but also says about its relationship. So this beef ban was, instilled in 2003, and now it's opening up. And then United States is also opening up a market for the cooked chicken to be imported into the United States as well.
So give us an idea. We know that these can be quite strict requirements. What will beef exporters have to do in order to be able to export to China?
For safety reasons, China has a traceability requirement. They want the beef from United States to be born, to be raised, and to be slaughtered in the United States. And also, they also make exceptions for Mexico and Canada if they're imported to United States from the first origin of destination they want to start tracing. And that's just like any product that we have on the shelf, that if there's something goes wrong, we can go back to the origin and we can recall certain of the product, but not all of the products.
And it's certainly a competitive market. So who do you think will be the biggest beneficiaries of this deal?
Well, I think the beneficiary is really the global market. It makes it more competitive. I'm sure the Brazilians and the Australians are a little bit alarmed because they see competition coming in. But I think the Chinese consumer will be able to really enjoy U.S. beef. I would like to have an American steak when I'm in China, and right now it's a rarity. And a lot of byproducts also will be happen as these beef will be exported. It's just not the meat, but there will be a lot of the leather goods and so many things. So it's a big, very, very big, beneficiary to a lot of different sectors.
So now that the US is back in the game to compete with the other major beef exporters, what should they be doing to really try and win over the stomachs of Chinese consumers?
Well, I think the Chinese consumers are getting more sophisticated in their eating habits. Certainly, they have changed from a grain and vegetable diet to, in the last 30, 40 years, to more of a meat protein diet. And they consume a lot of pork. And beef is probably second to pork and maybe chicken. But people have to be mindful that Chinese people don't eat a 2-inch steak, or they throw a couple of hamburgers on the barbecue for dinners for the family. They like to have their beef cut and sliced and sauteed with vegetable, and that's more of their diet rather than the American way of just putting a huge steak. So like parts like flank steak and so forth would be very popular. Chinese people also like oxtail, actually, besides the beef, as you know. And I think that there will be in terms of the diet, I think the U.S. beef industry need to really study so that they can better market to them. And the channel of distribution is extremely important, because in order to get to the people's hand, not only the restaurant, but also the supermarket or the butchers, to get to the consumers.
And Fred, speaking of the Chinese diet, we know that China is also encouraging less meat consumption in an effort to really try and reduce obesity and also diabetes. So with that in mind also, what's your outlook for beef consumption in China?
I think that it will increase. I think that certainly the U.S., by opening the market, they will become competitive to Australia and as well as Brazil. I think U.S., according to Secretary Ross, he said it will be a $2.5 billion market. In terms of marketing to the Chinese consumer, I think that you're right in terms of the government is suggesting that people should be eating more healthy, but do people listen? I mean, even United States, we don't listen. So I think people would like to have enjoying a good meal, a good time, and beef is probably going to be a very regular diet in a Chinese household.
All right, so bullish on beef. Thank you so much, Fred Teng, president of the America-China Public Affairs Institute.